Okay, good evening. Thank you. Tonight is September the 10th, and this is a general committee meeting for the city of Hendersonville. And I'm Lee Peterson, Alderman from Ward 2, Chairman of the General Committee, and our committee is with us tonight.
Jim Waters, Vice Chair, Alderman, Ward 6.
Thank you.
Bob Garza, Alderman, Ward 3.
And we have Jason, if you would like to lead the table in
Sure.
introductions.
Sure. Jason Gallo, Administrative Services Director.
Mayor Jamie Clary.
Karen Dixon, Alderman, Ward 4.
Keith Free, Planning Director.
Thank you very much. And we have a full house of distinguished guests. So we want to welcome and thank you all for coming. And I want to mention also, if anybody hasn't signed up to speak, we do have a sign-in sheet. We have one person who signed up so far.
Correct.
And if we don't have anybody else, yes, please sign up. We also have aldermen with us during this pause. Thank you for being here. Jesse, Director Gilly from the Parks, City Attorney. I'm glad I wore a tie tonight.
Why didn't you tell me?
Or me, because I never do anyway.
Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order.
So moved.
We have a
Second then.
motion and a proper second. All those in favor of calling this meeting to order, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you, or this would be a long night. Have you all had a chance to read the agenda in front of you for tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Would we like to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Garza and a second from Mr. Waters. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. And did you have a chance to review last month's minutes from August 13th?
Yes.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
I have a proper motion to accept the minutes from August 13th and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. And we are now up to item number 4, and that is citizen comments. And we have, here's the pen. And copies of the agenda if anybody else wanted one. We have 2 people who have signed up to speak. And one of our people has declined to speak because we will be deferring one of our items. So they wish not to speak. So our second person is CJ Morale. Please, if you would like to come up here so we can get you on camera.
Yes, I would like to speak on, I guess, item number 2. I don't know if it would be more appropriate for me to speak then, once y'all get to that, or now.
He's with the developer.
I think we will let you speak when we come to item number 2. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Any other citizen comments that didn't sign up? Okay. Mr. Attorney, I hope I did that well. Thank you very much. I get a little nervous. Okay, we are going to now move on to our ordinances and resolutions. And the first item is reading of resolution 2024-33, a resolution in honor of Pat Campbell to name the Saunders Ferry Greenway the Pat Campbell Greenway. And I'm the sponsor of that. And I would like to defer that until next month. And I certainly will tell you why. I had found out, originally this went to the naming committee, and I believe when we wanted the Greenway named in honor of Pat Campbell, a former alderman who has passed away, it wasn't specific from the naming committee on what section of the Greenway would be named after Pat Campbell. I believe the Greenway is 7 miles long. It goes from the library to Saunders Ferry Park. And I think my intent was to name the new sectional that's adjacent to Saunders Ferry Road, that part of the Greenway, after Pat Campbell. This went on to the Parks Department, Parks and Recs Board, and it passed unanimously as well. And they kind of fine-tuned the sections for the Greenway named specifically for Mr. Campbell. Come to find out, the naming committee needs to do that specifically. And that's how their, not constitution, but that's how that committee was written up. And so we're going to send that back to the naming committee. They have already met in September, so they'll be meeting in October. And then once they meet, it will come back to general committee, because I don't believe it needs to go to the Parks and Rec Board again.
And what is, explain to me the reason that, because they left out something?
I think it wasn't specific, what
How
sections.
specific do you want it to be?
Well, I had left that up to the naming committee, but now, retrospect, I want the section from Main Street to Mallard Point Park, which is the Greenway, Saunders Ferry Greenway that is along the lake, and it runs adjacent to Saunders Ferry Road.
Yeah.
Because that was Pat Campbell's backyard, so to speak. He was alderman for that ward for his entire terms. And
So you think they ought to put that in their region?
yes, it would need to go back and have that specifically stated, the exact name for the Greenway and what section we were talking about. And I didn't want the entire 7 or 8 miles named after him, just the section that was in his ward that he fought so hard to get
That
funded.
Yes, the facilities naming committee decided that some part of it, of the Greenway, should be named that, and deferred to the Parks Department on what they thought, which part of it should be. And the Parks Department made their input as they should, but we just felt more comfortable if, after the Parks Department made their input, the sponsor can then again make his input, and the facilities committee, naming committee, can consent or adopt whatever that is. But the ultimate decision should really come from the facilities naming committee.
The other thing in here, excuse me, and again, I'm not sure how specific, it says the name, the new Saunders Ferry Greenway. That's the only thing that's new, right? I mean, everything else has been there for a while.
And I think that's what we will fine tune the language of, specific sections of the Greenway. I think the entire Greenway is called the Hendersonville Greenway, if I'm correct. If we even, I think so. So we were just naming a section and specifically that part of the new Greenway that was in Mr. Campbell's ward. I just thought was a fitting memorial for him.
Well, yeah, I have an issue with that, but
Is
I guess we're gonna
that
say
right,
from
Lee?
point
We
A to
don't
point
have
B.
We have to do this?
I would recommend it. The facilities naming committee just deferred on what would be named in their minutes, as I understood it.
Okay, that's reasonable.
And the Parks Department made their input, and I believe that the facilities naming committee should adopt that, or whatever.
Okay.
I
You
think the
think,
ultimate decision should be.
you think we need to defer it then?
Yes, sir, I do.
And I fully support that, because that was the whole purpose of establishing a naming committee for naming parks and fields and roads and buildings going forward, I want to make sure that we're doing it properly.
In,
So
no, I'm sorry.
I don't have any problem for this going back to the naming committee.
In retrospect, Karen said something earlier about in order for this to happen, even if we approve it today, there has to be 5 years since the person's passing.
Well, I think ideally they wrote in there that it's a 5-year term, but I think that could be up to the committee or to the city attorney if we wanted to waive that 5-year period.
Okay, that's fair. I'm okay with the deferment. I'll propose a deferment.
Second.
Okay, we have a deferment for the reading of Resolution 2024-33, a resolution in honor of Pat Campbell to name the Saunders Ferry Greenway the Pat Campbell Greenway. We have a proper motion and a second to defer this back to the naming committee for their October meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to the second item tonight, and that is reading of ordinance 2024-18 and ordinance rezoning 4.84 acres located at the intersection of Saundersville Road and Windcrest Way from suburban residential low density SR1 to general commercial plan development plan GCPD to be known as Windcrest Moon Nursery Commercial Plaza. And Alderman Martin is sponsoring this ordinance, but he called me and said he is unable to make it tonight. He has been detained. So would we like Keith Free to chime in? And let me backtrack. That was commentary from our city attorney, Lance Ray. So thank you for your input on that resolution for the naming committee and helping us with the deferment on that. Jason, would you like Keith to take the lead?
He's going to be more informed than I will, I promise.
Okay, that'd be great. I would like to turn this over to Keith Free, our planning director, to inform us about this ordinance for Moon Nursery.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Planning Commission met on September the 3rd and recommended to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the rezoning of a combined development plan for, it's that area when you come out on Windcrest Way out of the Windcrest subdivision. It's right on the right. That's bordered by Windcrest Way and Saundersville Road. This was one, if you remember, it didn't, I don't think it made it to BOMA, but it went to the Planning Commission. There was a hotel and a gas station that went to the Planning Commission, and then when it was on its way to this committee, then it dropped. It withdrew. So this is a new project that the folks were looking at, and that was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission 5-3. Additionally, the future land use plan, the designation for that lot was evaluated, and it was also in a separate issue. It was approved from the Planning Commission on a 6-2 vote as well. And I can answer any questions, and I think there is a representative of the applicant here that could answer any questions. I will note there were within the Planning Commission's recommendation, there were 4 uses of the 11 allowable uses that would be allowed within this plan development that were removed. Those were animal hospital, banquet hall, caterer, and daycare center for adult or children.
The plant nursery was definitely approved.
Recommended for
Recommended
approval.
for approval. Okay.
And so where this is the Planning Commission approved the change in the future land use plan for that particular parcel. So that's done. The Planning Commission takes care of the future land use plan. And then they made a recommendation to BOMA for the rezoning and the plan for the combined plan development of that property with all the different limited uses. And then now we have that this evening here before this committee. And then in 2 weeks, it'll go to full BOMA for a first reading if it passes through here. And then about 4 weeks after that, It'll go back to BOMA for a second reading and a public hearing for final action.
Okay. I have a lot of questions.
Yes.
The allowable uses removed was animal hospital, banquet hall, caterer, and daycare center. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And did the planning commission remove hotel and gas station?
That wasn't listed on there, on the request for this. That was a
Okay.
previous.
That was a
previous one.
prior
Yeah.
zoning change, or was that an allowable use?
It was a similar development like this that had different uses.
Okay.
But those uses are not moving forward with this. They
Okay.
weren't originally requested either.
All
with
right.
this
So
submission.
this is the same property though,
Same
correct?
yeah,
And
that's same
same
property.
developer?
Different developer. So
Okay.
this is Moon Nursery. I think it's a nursery facility, sort of a high-end, I guess, nursery facility that is looking to do a development on the property.
Okay. Do we want to discuss this or listen to the developer first?
You're the chairman.
Thanks.
I'd like to hear from the developer first, because I have a lot of questions and it'd be redundant if he answers them
I
in the beginning.
totally agree. Yes, CJ
Merle.
Merle.
Yes, sir.
Would you state your name and address for the committee, please?
Yes, sir. CJ Merle, 1517 Hunt Club Boulevard, Gallatin, Tennessee.
Okay.
And I'm with 615 Design Group, representing Peak Development Partners and also Moon Valley Nurseries. Wasn't sure how many copies to bring of this, but I will touch on this here in a little bit. And then there's also 3 photos there. I believe one of
Three
those
different
photos
photos.
is included in your packet. The close-up photos of the plants are not included in your packet. I don't think. Okay, so as Mr. Bree stated, there was a previous development on this property. I was involved in that previous development, acting as the consultant to take it through the process with the city of Hendersonville. And with that development, obviously, as Keith mentioned, it got denied at the planning commission. This developer that is involved with this particular project that received a recommendation of approval at planning commission is completely different from the original developer. Ultimately, what they're looking to do is propose a high-end luxury tree nursery. I think the average ticket for these trees is almost $2,000 a tree. This is not their only facility across the country. I believe they're based out of Phoenix, Arizona. They do have a local facility in Franklin that they've just opened up within the last year. The pictures that you see that were in your packet are from a facility that's in Peachtree, Georgia, that's been opened recently. So you can see in the picture how green the site is. All of the plants are in box containers. None of them are planted on site. They are all distributed to the site in individual boxes and will leave the site in individual boxes. The plants are irrigated on site with drip line system. It is not a spray system that you see at normal nurseries. The facility closes at 6 p.m. We were required by engineering to do an access study for the site. The access study came back very positive and said that we did not need to do any other improvements to Saundersville Road, and the access points that were considered were the ones that are included on the site plan today. At Planning Commission meeting, with me being involved in the previous development, I'll take a step back here. With me being involved in the previous development, when we originally came through Planning Commission with the hotel and gas station, there was over 30 people that spoke out for this project from the public. The difference between that meeting and this past Tuesday, is there was 3 citizens that spoke out on the project. And the questions that were posed were very valid questions, and Ms. Collins herself even got up and asked questions at Planning Commission. I appreciate the feedback. What we've tried to do in the past week since then is try to address as many of those concerns that the citizens posed, like we did from the beginning with us having a neighborhood meeting and things like that. The majority of the concerns that were posed at the planning commission revolved around the truck access at the bottom of the site. And how it was going to be used, how the trucks were going to access it, so on and so forth. The difference between what is in your packet and the exhibit that I have on the table today that is in front of you is I've adjusted the site to move the entrance into that truck delivery area further north. So it makes it easier for the trucks to access the site. And then what I've done is I've provided 2 turning templates. The turning template that is in blue is a truck getting off of Vietnam Veterans, turning left onto Saundersville Road, and then making a left into the site, showing that turn is possible. Now, I would say yes, sir.
Question, directly into the site, not going down Windcrest.
Not going down Windcrest.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That was a big issue.
Yes. So the reason why we provided the truck delivery area at the bottom of the site is to try to get it as far away from Windcrest Way as possible. No semis and no large trucks will be entering onto Windcrest Way to access the site.
Okay.
They will be specifically told to access the site at the bottom of the site. And that access point will be fully gated and fully controlled. So the only people that will be allowed to go in there is one of the delivery trucks.
Okay.
These delivery trucks are coming from Moon Valley Nursery Farms and are affiliated with Moon Valley Nurseries. They are not just a normal truck driver that's driving across the country to make these deliveries. So every single one of their trucks is monitored, is GPS tracked, and they know where their trucks are at all times because they want to control their inventory.
What type of truck you talking about? Tractor trailer?
So, yes, sir. So what I've shown on this exhibit right here is a full, large semi-tractor trailer. So I will note that to fill the site up with inventory, the first several trucks that deliver to the site are going to be larger trucks, but the vast majority of the trucks that deliver to the site on a regular basis are smaller trucks, 30-foot beds, and are not full semis. But what I wanted to show with the exhibit is that a full semi could make the turn and turn around fully on site and be heading out of the site as opposed to backing out onto Saundersville. No backing out onto Saundersville will be required or ever occurring.
That's suicide.
Yeah, correct.
That's
Yes.
suicide.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. So I will say that the turning template that I have shown here shows a truck exiting off the off ramp from Vietnam Veterans. But I would say 90% of the trucks that are delivering to the site will be coming from the west and will be utilizing the light at the south side of Vietnam Veterans, coming under the bridge and making a left turn into the site. And then obviously once they turn around on site and leave the site, it's a direct right turn onto the on-ramp heading back west toward where their farms are located.
Where are the farms located?
The majority of them are all located out west.
Okay, they're coming that far.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They are Moon Valley Nurseries is headquartered in Arizona.
Right.
That's where their original facilities are. They have facilities located all over the country.
So can I ask you a few questions right now?
Yes.
CJ, what are the buffers? And planning knows this, I don't. What are the buffer requirements here?
So the buffer requirements are going to be set by the CDP. Now we have had requests from the planning staff to show a 20-foot buffer along
20 feet.
Along the western border. Now the intent for this site is that the western tree line, which is there today. Now,
Correct.
it's there today. It's a mature tree line. There are some places where we may have to supplement it with additional trees, which we're happy to do. But the intent is to not impact that existing tree line.
Okay.
Because there are portions of it that are mature.
I was there today, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, there is also a portion at the top. I guess there's a tree line of evergreen trees along the northern boundary of the site. If you notice on the color-coded site plan, there's a section in the top left corner of the site that we've left untouched, and we're trying to keep as many of those trees on that northern border as possible. Now, obviously, we have to provide the access into the site,
Entrance.
but everything to the west of that access is to remain the same, and we've shown that with our grading measures on site that we can stay away from those.
Okay. I noticed this facility here is fenced in. Will this facility
Yes,
also
sir.
be fenced in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good news.
And it will be a similar fence as shown there. Like I said, their entire inventory section is fenced. The parking lot won't be fenced, because you have to, provide
No,
access to
yeah, I
users.
understand that.
And then, like I said earlier, the truck access area will be fully gated and controlled.
Okay, so. I can't read my own writing sometimes. Give me a
Okay.
second. Oh, no, the entrances you answered. Thank you.
So,
The other question I have, which again, if it's gone to planning and it's been fixed, you'll know, I won't know yet. But I noticed in here since Windcrest entrances are brick and most everything in Windcrest is brick,
yes, sir.
that I thought one of the questions would be on this little building,
Correct.
whether it can happen or not. I mean, I think it would fit the neighborhood better if it was brick.
Yes, so that was actually a request from planning staff, and was actually a condition of approval at planning commission, that the architecture be brought up to character of the surrounding area. And the applicant has agreed to incorporate more brick into the building.
Okay.
And I might explain, just so as you're looking at the packets and everything, when you look on there and see planning staff comments or public work staff comments, when all these recommendations get made from the planning commission, they'll approve it, like recommend approval with all staff comments. So like the thing about the building, that was something we had a comment on. So that's all still pending out there. Then they're held responsible to that. I just want to kind of cover that.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what I'll add to that, do I need to reference the comment that we asked planning or PC to strike?
No,
Okay.
it was a part of the
Okay.
motion.
All right.
Yeah, that's okay.
It seems like when I listened to the objections
Yes, sir.
and I read more of the objections, it seems like their biggest issue was going to, hurt their home pricing, which I don't necessarily agree with, but now we're no longer entering on Windcrest, which was a big deal. I had a real issue with that because there's a tree line there in the center, in the island. I don't think anyone would have made that turn in a truck.
No, sir. You're very correct.
But the buffer at 20 feet, using the existing trees, which won't affect the neighborhood, I don't think anybody in the neighborhood will even see this facility from the neighborhood, from looking out to the street, because the tree line buffer now, you can't see the empty ground.
Yeah.
Well,
the
going back there.
The comment I made at the planning commission meeting is that the entire site essentially acts as a buffer because it's a forest of trees.
Kind of is. And now there won't be any buffer when you hit 386 right there at that end, right?
No, sir.
I don't think
there
you need
are,
one. I just was
There
asking.
are some trees along that fence line. I will say that within that first 20 feet, which we backed everything off, like all of our pavement and stuff like that, within that first 20 feet, there is a gas line that runs along
Okay.
that stretch of fence. But really, what you're going to see is the trees.
I mean, I think you
won't
would
even
like
be
to
able
be seen from 386
Yeah.
though. I think you would like that.
Yes.
I might just mention, CJ, we are requiring an additional buffer along 386.
Okay.
So there will need to be some additional landscaping up through there.
Okay.
So I think that's in our.
Well,
in our
it's
staff comment.
ugly now.
Yeah, it's
Well,
kind of
we'll
got
just-
some, it's kind of like, the landscape, the trees that are there and the brush,
Okay.
is kind of little, I don't know, little sparse.
Okay.
And
You've got the
so,
width there on the plan.
Yes, we have 20 feet there.
We're
Yes,
just
sir.
asking for the landscape.
yeah, just some landscape.
We'll just need to work with, I
Yeah.
believe it's Piedmont. We'll
On the
need to
gas
work with them to determine what
Yeah.
plants we can plant in that location.
Yeah.
But that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Happy to answer any other questions or provide additional feedback.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that this will be fenced in.
Yes, sir.
Will this fence deter coyotes? That was a question we have from an email I received.
I would think so. It's one of the, I guess, the architectural fences that are the black wrought iron. I don't know if it's actual wrought iron, but it's the black fence. It's not a full privacy fence, as you can see. I would think that it would deter that. I don't know of many coyotes that jump fences.
Usually
I could
they
be
don't
wrong.
jump.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have a great map on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for putting that up for us. I see the entrance here is not really aligned with
So-
Avondale.
Correct.
I guess that's not within your property.
No, so the
I was
the
just
intent
thinking
of
that
the-
would be great if those would line up. That might help with traffic flow.
Well, the intent is that the access on that access point that you see on the plan there, the intent there is for it to be gated and only used like twice a week for truck deliveries, and that's it.
Will that be during business hours?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, and those deliveries, from what I'm told, occur outside of peak traffic hour events. The other thing that may be important to note is with the access study that we had done for this site, this property is currently zoned SR1. The daily trips that you would see from an SR1 development on a site of this size would be anywhere from 150 to 200 total daily trips for the site. The vast majority of which would be occurring during AM and PM peak hour trips. The proposed estimated trips from this facility is anywhere from 400 to 500. However, it's spread out across the day. So the AM and PM trips that are occurring during that time are like 24, 25 one-way trips into the site. So theoretically, we probably couldn't have picked a better use to drop the amount of traffic generating practices for the site down as much as possible.
Is there an estimated volume for these nurseries?
Volume, when you say volume.
Dollars.
Yes, are you wanting me to say that?
It's substantial.
It's substantial.
Okay, because we have a new sales tax and it's substantial too.
Okay. I was told to refrain from making comments about dollars.
That's okay,
So-
substantial is a good word.
Yes.
And where is the entrance
So-
to the nursery?
So the entrance, or there are two pedestrian entrances into the nursery. If you look at your package
Oh.
in your book,
It's in
I
this
can
one,
point
right?
to it. It's
You
the
can borrow mine.
color coded right there. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So we originally had the truck entrance down at the very bottom. We've now flipped that there just to make the turning movement easier. There is a ride in, ride out on Saundersville here and a full access off Windcrest Way here to match what is across the street for the office development to the north.
Okay.
So-
That's a car entrance though.
Correct, yes,
Yes,
just
yes.
car entrance. And the only thing that could potentially access that full access is like a landscape truck, which can easily make that turn.
Well, that would be a retailer.
Yes,
picking up,
correct, correct. And I will also note that a lot of these trees are large. A lot of these trees are larger. So the majority of these are not going to be they're not going to leave in someone's car.
Right.
They could leave in someone's truck if they had a truck, but they're going to leave on a landscape truck, essentially, and delivered to whoever's site.
I happen to think this is a needed retail for Hendersonville.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, one of the comments that was brought up at our neighborhood meeting, and I think is important to note, is they asked the question on whether or not there was going to be any mulch at this facility. There is no mulch at this
Okay.
facility.
That
The
was
only
an
thing that's going to be
objection.
sold at this facility is the plants within the boxes and the planters that are already there.
Right.
So no potting soil, no soil, no top fill, no mulch, no manure?
Yes, sir. The only thing that would be sold would be things in bags. That would be on a pallet.
Would be
Okay.
what?
It would be like a topsoil within a bag that you can get at Lowe's.
Except
there's
for-
no
except for
mulch
the high-end
piles.
stuff. Except for the high-end stuff, right?
Yeah. There's no mulch piles or bins or anything like that.
And the Franklin facility has that though, correct?
Yes, sir, they do. Now, the reason why they have that, and that's not normal for their facilities, from what I've been told, but the Franklin facility was a previous nursery that they
Oh,
bought,
okay,
and so that is why
makes
that
sense.
is that's the main reason why that's there.
Okay. Thank you, CJ.
Yes.
And I would have a question in staff comments. I don't see any comment from the fire department. Are they able to access this front entrance off of Windcrest Way?
Yes, sir. And in the packet, I believe we provided an access plan showing the fire truck moving through the site. If we did not, I sincerely
Yeah,
apologize and will include that. But
Now, the no comment, when you see
There it
no
is.
comment by the time it gets to you all, that means fire has thoroughly reviewed it, but they just didn't have any comments.
Yeah, so-
Typically,
Okay.
yeah, typically we'll have still a bunch of comments. Public Works will have a bunch of comments, and fire will usually have at least 3 or 4. But in
Yeah.
this case, I think they addressed that, and then they may have had more comments if there was a larger building or facility or something.
You
It
wanted
could
to
have been
see
a
it?
little bit smaller.
yeah, of
Want
course.
to grab the next one?
Yes, Keith, do you mind?
Yeah, you can have that. Hey, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Good. There you go.
I don't have any more questions.
No.
Um,
Good job.
Mr. Waters,
No questions.
no questions?
Good
If-
job.
if
Is
you
this
don't-
different than
if you don't-
what we had?
If y'all
Yeah.
don't mind,
I-
is it okay
Ask
if
a
I
question?
provide
Yeah.
Mr. Martin with a little bit of feedback on what we've?
I've been listening.
Okay, cool.
So the number one concern was staging of the trucks turning in. You
Yes,
have a locked gate
Yes, sir.
and
Okay.
there's no center lane.
Yes, sir. So as I mentioned previously, all of these trucks are coming from Moon Valley Nursery Farms. So all the drivers that are driving these trucks are affiliated with Moon Valley Nurseries. Every single one of their trucks are tracked and monitored at all times. And there is someone on site that is ready to receive the truck once they're en route. So once they're en route and they know they're coming, they're opening the gate, waiting for them to turn in. The turning template that you see on the table right now is a full tractor trailer. I did that to show that, I guess, the absolute maximum of what could turn in there and make the turning movement to come out of the site. The majority of the trucks that are going to deliver the initial inventory to the site will be those larger trucks, but the majority of the trucks that deliver the inventory throughout the process for the future and ongoing operations of the facility are larger trucks that are only 30-foot long trailers. So they're not going to be the 50
Let
foot.
me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that time like 8 to 5 or 7 to 6?
Yeah, I believe the Franklin facility is 7:30 to 6.
5 days?
They're open on the weekend as well, but they close early on Sundays, and they open late on Sundays too, I believe. If I remember
Through the
correctly.
week is what?
7:30 to 6.
Mr. Chairman. Question.
Yes, Mayor, please.
Keith and Lance, is loading landscaping material covered under the restrictions of construction activity for houses? Meaning, are they, if somebody's loading up something at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday, is that included in our restrictions?
I think it would, for Lance, but I believe, Lance, it would probably be on the noise ordinance. For this, it would be whatever the requirements are for commercial in some areas.
Yeah, I don't
Not
think it
for
would,
home building.
I don't think it would be construction activity.
No, I don't think so. But whatever our specific requirements on the noise ordinance for commercial property, it would have to abide by
But
that.
it's not home building activity?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, please.
Did you share this with TDOT yet?
Yes, so I haven't shared the turning exhibit with TDOT. I have shared the site plan with TDOT and have requested their feedback.
All right, so they're going to give you a waiver on the 250-foot minimum required distance between curb cut and your on-ramp, or
So,
TDOT's on-ramp.
As mentioned in the planning commission meeting, we coordinated with TDOT previously. It's our understanding that with this site, with this access being controlled, it is different. We received no negative feedback from engineering staff on this, but what I have done, I mean, technically, we are not required to request a driveway permit from TDOT because we are not tying to TDOT right of way. However, we are, out of the concerns that you posed in the meeting and others, we've gone ahead and reached out to TDOT for their feedback, and I'm hoping to have that back by the 24th. Doing everything I can to have feedback from them
Is that
by
before
the
Boma?
24th. That's the BOMA meeting.
So planning approved at 5 to 3?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
I make a motion, we move on it.
Well, I'll second that motion.
Mr. Martin, Alderman Martin, you are the sponsor of this ordinance. Do you have any comments you wanted to make before we vote on this ordinance?
Well, I have a concern. Usually, there's a site plan that's developed and it moves to general and then it moves to the BOMA. The fact that there's a revised site plan that planning commission hasn't seen really kind of throws up red flags, if I'm going to be honest.
Sure.
I would also like to make sure that TDOT is aware of what we're doing. The people that spoke against it, they had concerns about manure and odor. I think that's fine because the concern about structures that are tall, like that hotel, that's kind of been mitigated. And then I think those, I'm really concerned about the truck traffic. I'm gonna be honest. You've got the control gate entrance, and you have a solution apparently. In a perfect world, it'll work, but if there's a problem, there's gonna be a problem on Saunders Road.
So
Anyway.
can I speak to that?
Please.
Okay. So what I've presented in this exhibit, which I will be sending this, I wanted to make sure this exhibit was prepared for tonight's meeting, and I apologize, I didn't have enough copies. I will send this to staff. In my experience, because I've gone through a lot of these processes, and not just this municipality, but others, there are oftentimes from planning commission meeting to council or BOMA or whatever you're going to, there are always some kind of revisions going on with these projects. If we could get it right the first time, trust me, Mr. Martin, I would love to get it right the first time, but that's just not the case sometimes. What I've shown on the exhibit is absolute worst case. And I feel like we've provided enough area in that truck delivery station to be able to fully turn around on site so that they could be leaving the site in the best position possible. I have reached out to TDOT, and as soon as we get feedback from them, I will make sure that I share that with the group.
Well, Keith, let me ask you,
Yeah.
was most of what we're hearing here tonight, was that brought up in planning? I mean, has he addressed everything for your committee?
Yes, when it was approved with that entry on there, it was even closer. So this kind of pulls it back a little bit. But, based on the comments that the public was making, as well as what the planning commissioners, those that voted in favor of the recommendation and those that voted against it, what we urged the applicant was, prior to tonight's meeting, but especially before the first BOMA meeting, they need to be able to address how these trucks are going to turn in and turn out of that little area, and show that and be able to represent that.
Did they satisfy the committee? Your committee?
Well, it satisfied the issue that was coming up. They recommended it with it being even closer than this. So this thing that you're seeing tonight actually pulls it away and addresses some of those things they didn't have the complete answers to. So that was one thing. The other thing that I felt was important that it got brought up was you need to reach back out to TDOT and kind of thoroughly get them to vet this, because that's going to be an issue that comes up. And that was the other thing that we had directed them to do. So this information that you all have this evening, we'll get that from CJ and make sure it's in the packet for the BOMA first reading.
I'm sort of surprised that TDOT has not already made a decision.
So as I mentioned before, so Saundersville Road is not a TDOT road,
I understand that.
but they, and even, so we reached out to TDOT when I was involved in the previous development with the hotel and the C-store. We reached out to them out of courtesy just to make sure that they were okay with our right in and right out that we were adding to Saundersville Road. Stephen Windsor-Reed was on that call. Sarah Locke was on that call. And at the time, I believe it's Stanley Sumner. I always forget his last name. Stanley Sumner was on the call and mentioned that there was not going to be any approval process on their end, but they were happy that we're reaching out of courtesy to show them what we were planning on doing. I'm more than willing to reach out to them again, as we've already done, to try to get feedback from them on what can and can't be done. Now, they could come back and say, hey, we don't like this. I mean, that's,
TDOT could?
they could. I mean, that's all. But I don't personally, based on the feedback we've gotten from engineering and Public Works, not having an issue with the controlled access at all. We received no comments through this process. The comments we received from Public Works and engineering was related to the right in, right out, not the truck access.
I don't suspect TDOT's going to make a comment on this.
I don't think it will.
They may not, but I think it's important to reach out and make sure to fully ask that to
He's
see
done
what
that.
it is.
He's done
Well,
that.
he's still waiting.
We are fully willing to do that. I'm still waiting on their feedback. I've requested for them to provide feedback by the 24th, and am trying to make constant reach outs to them so that we can get that feedback as much as possible before the 24th.
One thing I may just mention, because at the Planning Commission, we talked about a whole lot of things, but one thing that came up in tonight's meeting that I would strongly encourage a BOMA member, when it gets to BOMA, to consider adding to this is on that use for the nursery, is to also mention maybe that unbagged potting soil, mulch, and manure would not be allowed on the site associated with that. And what that does is, if for some reason in the future there may be different ownership, but it's still a nursery, then maybe some of those more noxious type things that would keep it. And this fits with what Moon Nursery isn't going to do that. So I would highly encourage that once it gets to full BOMA to maybe consider that. So
I will be asking that question.
Understood.
Or you can
All right.
include it in your recommendation.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your
Right now?
time.
Okay.
Awesome. Did y'all vote? Or
No.
y'all? Okay.
We haven't.
Not yet.
Now, yeah, we're going to,
Awesome. Thank y'all.
thanks. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you.
So if I could start, Jim, is that okay? I would like to approve this ordinance with the recommendation that we include the lack of use of loose soils and mulch and straw, things that are picked up, as we see in a lot of nursery situations. This is not it, but I want to make sure that's in the recommendation, so that's not something we have to deal with in the future.
Agree.
I'm going to interject right here and ask advice from Mr. Free. Do you think we've got enough information tonight to move forward to BOMA, or with this new turning lane and waiting for TDOT's response, does this need to go back to the Planning Commission?
I think it can move forward to BOMA. I think Planning Commission, all the things that we discussed tonight was discussed and it was approved with that information that was available. I think really, when it gets to BOMA are those questions that we talked about tonight, can those be fully answered? And,
Okay.
and I think, if they can, that's great. If they can't, then that's something to take into account as well.
You cool, Michael?
Okay. Thank you. We have a proper motion
With a recommendation.
with a recommendation and a proper second
Second.
to move this to BOMA in 2 weeks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Okay. Keith, thank you for
Thank you.
helping us with that. And Mike, thank you for sponsoring it. And we're going to move on to other agenda items. And do we have any other business we would like to discuss tonight?
Yes, one other thing. So since Keith Free's here and our lawyer's here and Jesse's here, I recommend we go after Trader Joe's.
Yeah, you got that.
That's all I have.
Well, they do follow Aldi. I know, I'm sorry. They're related to Aldi, but they do follow Costco.
They do.
So
We're on the map.
they're, so you're saying there's a chance.
Just saying there's a chance.
Okay.
Motion was made.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn from
And a
Mr.
second.
Waters and a second from Mr. Garza. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Yeah, good job, Mr. Chairman.